Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanishalaakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet. In this session, we'll be discussing from the 49th verse of the 13th chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Soyam Adya Maharaja Bhagavan Bhuta Bhavanaha Kala Rupo Avatirnosyam Abhavaya Suradvisham. The meaning of this verse is that Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, in the guise of all devouring time, Kala Rupa, has now descended on earth to eliminate the envious from the world. So, this verse describes Krishna's descent also as the all-devouring time, Kala. So Prabhupada explains this in the purport. There are two classes of human beings, namely the envious and the obedient. Who are called the envious? Since the Supreme Lord is one and the Father of all living beings, the envious living beings are also His sons, but they are known as the Asuras. But the living beings who are obedient to the Supreme Father are called Devatas or demigods, because they are not contaminated by the material conception of life. Demigod means almost like God. So, or godly. Demigods also can be called godly persons or godly beings. Not only are the Asuras envious of the Lord in even denying the existence of the Lord, but they are also envious of all other living beings. See, this is the nature of the Asuras. It's called demoniac nature. This is described in the Bhagavad Gita also, 16th chapter, the demoniac nature and the divine nature. The predominance of Asuras in the world is occasionally rectified by the Lord when He eliminates them from the world and establishes a rule of Devatas like the Pandavas. The Lord sometimes personally comes and sometimes He deputes His devotee to kill these Asuras and establish the proper rule of the Devatas like the Pandavas, godly beings. So His designation, that means the Lord's designation as Kala in disguise, is significant. Kala Rupoyam. He is not at all dangerous, but He is the transcendental form of eternity, knowledge and bliss. Satchidananda Vigraha. That's the real form of the Supreme Lord. Full of bliss, full of knowledge. Very, very beautiful form, most attractive. And very pleasing to the eyes. Very, very pleasing to the eyes. So that is the real form, original form of the Lord. But Prabhupada says, for the devotees His factual form is disclosed, and for non-devotees He appears like Kala Rupa, which is causal form. So what is the causal form? This causal form of the Lord is not at all pleasing to the Asuras. When He appears as death, that is not at all pleasing to anybody, especially for the Asuras. Now, devotees don't have to face death. Even devotees who take birth in this material world, because they are personally protected by the Lord. So for devotees, even though once having taken birth, it appears like even devotees die, but they are not dying like the asuras. Asuras are completely finished when they die, because all their power, their wealth, their possessions, their influence, everything is finished. But devotees, because they are on the spiritual platform, their devotional service, their devotional relationship, their devotional assets, everything is perfectly intact. And at the time of so-called death, a devotee changes the body from this body to another spiritual body. So for devotees, there is no death. That's why devotional service is the only way to conquer death. So these asuras, they are always afraid of death. They're always afraid of death. And therefore they think of the Lord as formless. The asuras always describe, if at all there is some God, he is formless. Why? Because in that way they feel secure that they will not be vanquished by the Lord. They think they can escape death, or they can escape the destruction by the Supreme Lord if they declare that, oh, God is there, but he is formless. This is not the truth, this is not the reality. God is there, he has got his transcendental form, but for the non-devotees, he is always present as death. The 50th verse, Nishpaditam Devakrityam Avashesham Pratikshate Tavadyuyam Avekshadvam Bhavedyavad Iheshwaraha. The meaning is, the Lord has already performed his duties to help the demigods, and he is awaiting the rest. You Pandavas may wait as long as the Lord is here on earth. So Narad Muni is indicating to the Pandavas that they have to cooperate with Krishna. Krishna is the Supreme Lord who is descended with a mission to clean up the earth, which was overburdened by asuras. So now the Pandavas are part of the mission of the Lord in this material world. So it is Krishna's desire that the Pandavas rule the world, the devotees, the divine personalities, not the demoniac-natured Duryodhana and company. No. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, the Lord descends from his abode, Krishna Loka, the topmost planet in the spiritual sky, in order to help the demigod administrators of this material world when they are greatly vexed by the asuras. When the asuras give too much trouble to the demigods or devatas or the divine beings in this material world, then the Supreme Lord comes here. Now these asuras are described as, not only are they envious of the Supreme Lord, they are also envious of the Lord's devotees. This is the nature of these asuras, demoniac nature. As referred to above, the conditioned living beings contact material association by their own choice. So we are not put here accidentally. We are not come here by somebody else's dictation. We have come out of our own choice. And what is that choice we have made? Dictated by a strong desire to lord it over the resource of material world and become imitation lords of all they survey. This is the whole disease. It's called Bhavaroga, material disease. I want to be the lord of everything I serve. and I want to lord over resources of this material world. So this is the desire which dictates us contact with material association, and this is only possible with material association. It's not possible in the spiritual existence. Everyone is trying to become an imitation God. Imitation God. We cannot become God. We can try to imitate God. That's what all these asuras do. They declare there is no God, or I am God, or everyone is God. All these kind of foolish things are done by asuras only, not by the demigods. There is a keen competition among such imitation gods, and such competitors are generally known as asuras. Even the asuras, sometimes they fight among themselves. One tries to kill the other, or one tries to overpower the other. When there are too many asuras in the world, then it becomes a hell for those who are devotees of the Lord. Devotees want to live peacefully doing their own devotional service. They have no desires like the asuras. But these asuras become too many in number. The asuras disturb the devotees also. Due to the growth of the asuras, the mass of people who are generally devoted to the Lord by nature and the pure devotees of the Lord, including the demigods in higher planets, pray to the Lord for relief. And when the devatas, devotees pray to the Lord, then what happens? The Lord either descends personally from his abode or deputes some of his devotees to remodel the fallen conditions of human society or even animal society. The Lord can appear in any form, but he remains the transcendental Lord, and his form is always spiritual, though it appears like a material form. It's not a material form. Such disruptions take place not only in human society, but also among animals, birds, or other living beings, including the demigods on the higher planets. So, in this material world, periodically these disturbances are there. Time to time, yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. Whenever and wherever there is this dharmasya glani, neglect of religious principles. These asuras, they come in the way of this following religious principles. Then the Lord personally comes. Lord Sri Krishna descended personally to vanquish asuras like Kamsa, Jarasandha, Shishupala. And during the reign of Maharaj Yudhishthira, almost all these asuras were killed by the Lord. Now, it is told in the verse, await the rest. What is that? Now he was awaiting the annihilation of his own dynasty called the Yadu Vamsha, who appeared by his will in this world. Krishna appeared along with the Yadus, and they were very, very powerful. Now, this annihilation of this Yadu Vamsha also, it was not required except when the asuras had to be annihilated. After annihilation of the asuras, the Yadu Vamsha is not required on this earth. So the Lord wanted to take up them away, the Yadu Vamsha, before his own departure to his eternal abode. So Narada, like Vidura, did not disclose the imminent annihilation of the Yadu dynasty, but indirectly gave a hint to King Yudhishthira and his brothers to wait till the incident happened and the Lord departed. So Narada is indicating what is going to happen in the future, immediate future now. That the Yaduvamsha shall be annihilated and then the Lord will go to his own abode, and then the Pandavas can go back to the spiritual world. I'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.